These are the new metal releases for the weekend of June 21st, 2024. I have 6 albums. This week I have a mix of genres. I have some groove metal, stoner metal, alternative metal, death metal, black metal, and a very unique Western cowboy metal band. So let's get into it. First band I have is Kittie with Fire. This is an all-female metal band. They began in the year 2000 with their debut called Spit. Then they evolved into more of a groove metal band. It's their 7th album, the first in 13 years. Basically, they have a signature sound that's a mix of nu metal and groove metal. I guess to me, they sound like a combination of the band Flyleaf and Lamb of God, something like that. Maybe a little bit of a Pantera in there as well. A lot of this has to do with the vocals, which we'll get to in a minute. The songs all have that heavy guitars, and the songs are filled with heavy nu metal and groove metal style guitar riffs, but there are also some lead guitars, and they play these atmospheric melodies, and that adds to the guitar sound. The bass is mostly played along with the guitar. There were a few songs where the bass guitar stood out, such as the second track, I Still Wear the Crown, and the final song on the album, Eyes Wide Open, the latter of which had a heavy bass guitar sound. The drumming was pretty straightforward. I think the best drumming could be heard on the track One Foot in the Grave. That was the one where you hear most of the variations in the drum beat. Now let's talk about the vocals. Almost all the songs have a combination of those harsh and clean vocals. On the one hand, some songs like Are You Entertained had more of the clean vocals. And the song One Foot in the Grave had vocals that were almost maybe pop vocals. But on the other hand, the song Eyes Wide Open had only harsh and no cleans, unless I didn't miss them, but that's what I think. Overall, it's an okay album. It's worth a listen from time to time. I don't think it will be making any end-of-the-year lists. My score is a 7 out of 10. Best songs are One Foot in the Grave, We Are Shadows, and Eyes Wide Open. I think One Foot in the Grave is a very super catchy song. Like that one will stick with you, but otherwise it's not too bad. Next is Kvaen with the Formless Fires. It's a one-man black metal band from Sweden. I reviewed their album from 2022 called The Great Below. I'm not a big fan of black metal, but this band I really like. It's more melodic black metal. I've heard them compared to Dissection. Basically, there's a variety of styles throughout the album, but they don't stray too far away from the black metal subgenre. First 2 songs, called The Formless Fires and Traverse the Nether, are straightforward black metal songs. These songs have lots of those black metal style guitar riffs, lots of blast beats, the traditional vocals. Then the next 2 songs were a little different. It's a Swedish word, I believe, Torrentssang, or Song of the Tower, which is my translation, and more of that first wave black metal with the chugging guitar, slower drum beats, more drum rolls, some choir styled vocals, and a little bit of a thrash metal sound. Then the next song, The Ancient Gods, had some acoustic guitars and melodic leads, haunting bass guitar sound, and more of that melodic black metal sound. Then they go back to that straightforward black metal sound with the song Basilisk. And then they change it up once again with another word, I believe in Swedish, Dezperadoz, or Song of the Dead. This one had more acoustic guitars, classical guitars, traditional heavy metal guitar riffs, some choir-style vocals. This one reminded me a little bit of the band Enslaved. Then the last 2 songs were slower, more atmospheric, called The Perpetual Darkness and The Wings of Death. They had a mix of acoustic guitars, more melodic guitar solos, but still had some traditional black metal styles as well. I like this album a lot. I will be honest, the first 2 songs on the album were hard for me to get into because I'm not a big fan of traditional black metal. But by the 3rd song, I started to enjoy the album a lot more. But that's just because of my taste in music. I think the album had a variety of styles. I enjoyed the guitar playing a lot. I like the fact that there were a lot of styles used, from traditional black metal to acoustic parts to more traditional heavy metal and thrash styles used. On the other hand, while the vocals were good, they could have had a little more variety. Maybe I would have liked more of those chanting, clean, enslaved type vocals more in the forefront, and maybe more of those vocal harmonies like the ones from the song Torrentssang. Overall, it's a very good album. Kvaen is one of my favorite black metal artists, and that's coming with someone who's very picky with this particular subgenre. My score is an 8 out of 10. I think it's a good album for black metal fans or anyone who wants to maybe explore some of this genre if they've never listened to it before. So check it out. Next is Dezperadoz with Moonshiner. They're a German Western metal band. It started as a side project from some of the members of the thrash metal band Sodom, which is completely different from what this band is. They play heavy metal music that's influenced by 60s and 70s spaghetti western movie soundtracks. It's their 6th album. Most of the songs in this album start with some type of western theme or melody. Many songs begin with those bluegrass guitars, and they go into more of a hair metal sound. The vocals are reminiscent of those sleaze metal bands from the 80s, such as Dangerous Toys or Love Hate. The first 3 songs, Evil Ways, Run and Shine, and Straight Between the Eyes, have that particular sound that I just described. And then by the 4th track, Moonshine, they start to play more of a bluegrass and country style, and the song had more of those outlaw country vocals. I thought this was a good song. It had some harmonica and elements of psychedelic rock. The song also had some cool bass guitar grooves in the breakdown section. Then there was an instrumental called Mexican Border. That was like a spaghetti western movie song, or similar to that one song that Metallica plays before the live shows. I just forget the name. Then the next 2 songs, Man of Constant Sorrow and River, had more of an outlaw country sound, the latter of which sounded more like Lynyrd Skynyrd. The next 2 songs, Lawless and My Lucky Graveyard Boots, were a mix of outlaw country and sleaze metal, and after that was Angel's Share, which sounded like some country square dancing music with violins and such. They had a heavy song called Gunman's Trail. That was probably the closest thing to pure heavy metal, and they closed with a southern rock inspired song called Never Stop to Start Again. Overall, it's not too bad. I thought the band was kind of a gimmick type of band, and not the first time a true metal band to mix those genres. It was kind of long, 55 minutes long. It could have been trimmed down to a 40 or 45 minute long album. Otherwise, not too bad. I give this 7 out of 10. Check it out if you like hair metal from the 80s mixed with some of that country and bluegrass and cowboy stuff. Next is Wizzerd with Kronia. This is a stoner doom metal band from the United States. It's their 4th album. It's a short album. 8 songs, only 23 minutes long. It's pretty much an EP. Most songs are between 1 and 3 minutes long, with one 8+ minute long song. The album starts with an instrumental, sounds like some proto-heavy metal, or even stoner metal, and then the next 3 songs were more straightforward proto-metal. Songs were Ride the Lie, Dire Wolf, and Dionysia. Out of those songs, I thought Dionysia stood out because it had more keyboards, slower pace, more of a psychedelic rock and noise rock sound. Then there was a short instrumental called Sisteri, which had some acoustic guitars, bass guitar, slow drum beat. This one reminded me of some of those early Black Sabbath instrumentals. And it served as the intro to the longest song on the album. That was 8 minutes and 43 seconds, called Dirt Nap. The song stood out, number one, because of her length, and it was like one of those desert rock songs, similar to bands like Fu Manchu or Caius. This one had some softer singing as opposed to the metal vocals of the other songs. And the last 2 songs, Hell, which was a little clip I played in the beginning, and Social Butterfly Effect, were more like proto-punk rock songs, the latter of which had more of a psychedelic rock song. Overall, short album, but there was a lot of variety in the sound. The songs each had their own personality. Let me also say that the bass guitar sounds very good on this album. Most of the songs have an audible bass guitar. My score is an 8 out of 10. I think if you like some of that early heavy metal or that type of thing, you can definitely get into this album, so check it out. Next is Earth Tone 9 with In Resonance Nexus. They're an English alternative metal band from Nottingham. The band combines a wide variety of influences from rock, metal, noise, and hardcore. Some of their influences are Alice in Chains, Carcass, Faith No More, Helmet, Metallica, Monster Magnet, and The Police. Kind of a weird combination. So it's their 5th album. This was an album. I kind of had a hard time taking notes while I was listening to it because I couldn't find the words to like describe their sound. They play heavy atmospheric type of music, some hard driving guitar riffs. Other times they play strange and trippy stuff. They get a little experimental. So, for example, on one song, Under the Snake, they play like this Japanese music, or I think that's what it is. It's in the intro. Other times the guitars have a lot of feedback. The song Black Swan Roulette, which was a little clip I played in the beginning, had clean atmospheric riffs in the first part and heavier riffs in the second part. The second half of the album had more of a metalcore sound in the guitars, except for the last song, Strength Is My Weakness, which had some heavier, sludgy guitar riffs in addition to some heavy post-metal types of riffs. As for the vocals, songs had both the heavy screaming type of vocals with clean singing, similar to metalcore or post-hardcore bands. Some songs were different, such as Third Mutuality, which had more of a spacey sound, and the song Black Swan Roulette reminded me of those atmospheric Limp Bizkit songs that Fred Durst likes to sing on their old albums. It was okay for me. It's not really the type of music I go to often. It might grow. I might need more time with this, but my score for now is 7 out of 10. If you know this band, let us know in the comments if you're a fan, if you've listened to them. Because I kind of like, I don't know, have a little mixed feelings about it, but let me know. I have one more band, and it's called Hyperdontia with Harvest of Malevolence. They're an old school death metal band, and it's the third album. The album has 8 songs. It's about 40 minutes long. It's some straightforward death metal. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel, or I've heard other channels say it's your meat and potatoes death metal, but it doesn't mean that it's not any good. So let's talk about it. Let's start off with the vocals. The vocals are all like low guttural vocals, similar to bands like Cannibal Corpse or Morbid Angel. They sounded consistent throughout all the songs. If I have anything negative to say, it was that they were mixed very low, so it was hard to understand the lyrics, but that's also due to the nature of the music, and we can't have the vocals be mixed too high and then they start to sound like 6 feet under. But then there were the guitars, and this is what makes the album very good. Not to say that the bass is absent, it is not. I'll get to that in a minute. But this album is filled with guitar riffs. There are lots of those old school death metal riffs with the tremolo picking. There are complex arrangements, and then there are times when we even play some thrash metal inspired guitar riffs. So if you saw my video on Cavalier Conspiracy's remake of Sepultura's Schizophrenia, I said that album was thrash metal with elements of death metal, but I think this is like the opposite. It's death metal, but there are times you hear some thrashy stuff thrown into the mix. I think an example of that would be the song named Defame Flesh. And they play some old school Slayer-inspired riffs in the middle of that song. There was another song called Marking the Right, and that had some of that like thrash metal-inspired like galloping riffs. And then there was a song Pervasive Rot, which had a slower styled death metal riffs. And that reminded me of some of the later day albums from the band Death. Then there are the guitar solos. I got to talk about that, because I thought they were all very melodic, and they were pretty much on, I think, all of the songs. And now let's talk about the bass. As you know, sometimes in metal, the bass gets lost in the mix. Sometimes the bass player sounds like they're just playing along with the guitars, and then you don't hear them that well. But with this band, the bass player makes himself known on every track. The bass can be heard throughout the album, and every song has these little sections where the bass player can play this like short lick for a few seconds, and then you can just hear that. And the bass is mixed high enough to hear along with the other instruments like throughout the whole album. As for the drums, lots of fast-paced death metal style drums. The drummer keeps up the pace. The songs have lots of different tempo changes. You can hear those drum rolls at times throughout the songs. Overall, just good death metal. My score is an 8 out of 10. And one more thing, if you're wondering what the name Hyperdontia means, it's when somebody has extra teeth in their mouth. As you can see in this picture, although you probably didn't want to see this, but I'm showing it to you anyway. And that is all. Check out last week's episode of the Best Metal Releases of the Week. I did 2 episodes last week, but this week only had time for 1. But you can see them. I'll stick that right there and right there. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe. If you have not already, I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.